In the small, peaceful town of Ridgefield, where rolling hills met vast stretches of dense forest, Officer Liam Coleman patrolled the highways, accustomed to the routine nature of the job. An autumn chill lingered in the air, painting the foliage in brilliant hues of orange, red, and yellow, creating a picturesque backdrop for his daily rounds. This quiet town was known for its idyllic charm and the occasional lost tourist, but on this crisp autumn afternoon, something felt different, unsettling even. As Liam drove along the winding road, the monotony of his patrol was abruptly broken by a rusted blue sedan that sped past a stop sign with tires skidding slightly on the damp pavement. His instincts kicked in, and without second thought, he flicked on his lights and signaled for the car to pull over. Routine traffic stops were common, but the urgency of this vehicle's rush felt different, almost desperate. He parked a few meters back and stepped out of his patrol car, hand resting lightly on the holster at his side, a precautionary instinct honed through years of training. Approaching the driver's side, he noted the wiry man in his late 40s, his sunken eyes wide with apprehension, hands clenching the steering wheel tightly as if it were a lifeline. "Good afternoon," Liam began, his voice firm yet professional. "Do you know why I stopped you?" The driver's eyes darted away, avoiding contact, while a faint whimper drifted from the back seat, barely perceptible above the sounds of the forest surrounding them. It was a high-pitched sound that sent a chill down Liam's spine. He strained to hear it again and did, a desperate, heart-wrenching whimper that tugged at his heartstrings. Liam's gaze shifted to the back window, and what he saw stopped him cold. A small, frail puppy huddled in the corner of the seat, its once vibrant fur now a dull, matted mess. The tiny creature trembled uncontrollably, ribs protruding painfully beneath its thin coat and wide, frightened eyes locked onto Liam's, a silent plea for help echoing in its gaze. Liam's heart raced, apprehension flooding through him. Why was the puppy in such distress? As his mind raced with possibilities, spanning from negligence to something far more sinister, he locked eyes with the driver again. "Sir," he said sharply, "step out of the vehicle." The man hesitated, anxiety washing over him, and Liam's resolve hardened. "Get out of the vehicle," he commanded, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. With trembling hands, the driver stepped out, his body language rigid with tension. "Please, just let me go." "It's just a dog," the driver protested, glancing nervously back at the back seat as if trying to shield his guilt. Liam approached the car with caution. "You said you found it on the side of the road, correct? Where is the paperwork? Vaccination records? Proof of adoption?" His questions came like a barrage, testing the man's lies. I don't have any of that." It's a stray," the man stammered, his words tumbling out in a rush. "Then why is the dog in this condition?" Liam pressed, fury bubbling beneath his calm demeanor. "If you were helping it, why does it look like it's been starved and abused?" The driver looked trapped, at a loss for words, panic edging into his demeanor. Just then the man bolted, turning on his heels and sprinting toward the nearby woods. "Stop!" Liam shouted, adrenaline surging. Without thinking, he took off after him, fueled by a mix of determination and sheer instinct. In that moment, the reality of the situation crystallized for Liam. This was not just a case of an animal in need. This was a tangled web of desperation and cruelty begging to be unraveled. Catching the driver was not just important for the puppy. It was critical for ensuring that others wouldn't find themselves in the same dire situation. The man was quick, but Liam, trained for such pursuits, maintained his momentum. In seconds, he tackled the driver to the ground, pinning him beneath his weight as they hit the dirt. "Why did you run?" Liam demanded, breathless but resolute, his grip firm on the man's arm. "I didn't mean to." The driver gasped, panic flashing in his eyes as he squirmed under Liam's hold. "Then explain to me why a frightened puppy is in the back seat of your car, looking like it's been through hell." Liam's voice was sharp, slicing through the crisp afternoon air. "I swear, I was just trying to help. I thought I was doing the right thing." The man's words came out in a panic, eyes darting everywhere but at Liam's face. It was clear he was hiding something. Before Liam could press further, backup arrived, officers coordinating to secure the area. Liam rose, keeping one eye on the driver and the other on the car, where the puppy still trembled, seemingly waiting for someone to save it. "Stay here," he instructed the officers on the scene. "I need to check on that dog." Gingerly, Liam opened the back door of the sedan, the puppy flinching, eyes wide with fear. "Hey, little buddy," he murmured softly, heart aching at the sight before him. "It's okay. You're safe now. I've got you." Liam gently lifted the fragile creature into his arms, and the puppy nestled against him, its small frame shaking but calm. Liam felt its heartbeat, a strong little pulse fighting against the odds. As he stood up, he could hear the murmur of the officers questioning the driver behind him. The man's defensive tone was evident, but Liam didn't care at that moment. He was focused on saving the life cradled in his arms. As the puppy looked up at him, wide eyes shimmering with trust, Liam made a silent promise. He would protect this creature from whatever had led it to such desperation. The approaching sound of sirens in the distance hinted at the impending arrival of animal control, and with every passing second, Liam felt an urgency build within him. "How could someone do this?" he whispered to the puppy as they walked back toward his patrol car, the chill of fall wrapping around him like a tight blanket. "You deserve so much better." Soon, Sarah from Animal Control arrived, her demeanor all business, but her eyes softened upon seeing the shivering puppy. "Oh no," she gasped, rushing forward. "What happened to him?" "Found in the back seat of a vehicle. No evidence of any kind of care. Just an absolute mess," Liam replied, his voice laced with anger and sadness. He relayed the story of the driver and the harrowing look in that puppy's eyes. Sarah knelt down and gently extended her hand toward the trembling creature. "You're safe now, sweet one," she cooed. Animal Control quickly transported the puppy to their van, where he would receive veterinary care. As they prepared to leave, Liam's heart raced with anticipation and unease. The puppy was now in safe hands, but the question loomed heavily. What would happen to the driver, and what had truly happened to this innocent animal before today? After Sarah assured him that the puppy would get the care it desperately needed, Liam returned to his patrol car, a swirl of emotions crowding his thoughts. He couldn't shake the feeling that the man wouldn't simply come forward about what was happening. As he sat down behind the wheel, a voice in the back of his mind urged him to dig deeper. "Dispatch, this is Officer Coleman," he radioed in. "I need to request a search warrant for the driver's residence. There's something more sinister at play here." The dispatcher's voice crackled through the receiver. "Copy that, officer. Proceed with caution. We're on it." As Liam turned the key in the ignition, a determination washed over him. The puppy had sparked something inside him, an urgency to find the truth and protect those who couldn't defend themselves. He realized he had stumbled upon a much larger issue, one that could bring about the end of countless innocent lives if left unchecked. With his heart set on uncovering the truth, Liam drove away from the scene, ready to ensure that justice would prevail. Not just for the puppy he had rescued, but for any others out there suffering in silence. The traffic stop had awakened a fire within him, and he was about to embark on a journey that would challenge everything he thought he knew about the world around him. As Liam drove away from the traffic stop, the image of the shaking puppy lingered in his mind. Its frightened eyes had pierced right through him, igniting an urgency to uncover the truth behind its desperate condition. He could barely focus on the familiar winding roads of Ridgefield, his thoughts consumed by the man he left behind. Who was he really, and where had that puppy come from? The radio buzzed with chatter as dispatch notified officers about the driver in custody, but it was the puppy's fate that weighed heavily on Liam's heart. He parked outside the police station, the sun dipping lower in the sky, casting a golden hue across the town. But that warmth felt distant compared to the cold dread building in his gut. Once inside, Liam found his captain waiting for him with a grim look on his face. I heard about the puppy. What do we know? We're still gathering details from the driver, Liam replied, glancing towards the back offices where the man was being questioned. But something tells me he's hiding more than just a story. Let's ensure he doesn't get away with that. We need to root out whatever's behind this. With renewed determination, Liam joined the interrogation team. In the small, dimly lit room, the driver sat hunched over, looking agitated. When he saw Liam enter, he stiffened, avoiding eye contact. "Tell us what you really know," Liam demanded, keeping his voice steady. "Where did that puppy come from?" "It's just a dog. I told you. I found it," the man protested, his voice strained. Liam leaned closer, his expression unyielding. "How many others have you abandoned, or worse? What's really going on?" Before the man could respond, an officer burst into the room. "We've got a lead on the possible origin of that puppy." A witness spotted a similar-looking van parked near a known bad area just a few nights ago. Liam's heart raced, a mix of hope and anger surging within him. "What do you mean, known bad area?" "Animal Control has reported multiple cases of neglect and suspected illegal breeding from that location. We need to check it out," the officer said. Liam turned back to the driver. "You're going to help us. We're heading to that location, and you're coming with us to identify it." The man's defiance crumbled at the prospect of facing the consequences of his actions. I can't. You don't understand. Then you'll have the chance to explain your side when we find out what you're connected to," Liam interrupted, already moving to grab him by the arm. "Let's go." Minutes later, they were in a squad car, the driver sandwiched between Liam and his partner, Maria, a fierce officer with a reputation for having a no-nonsense approach. As they rolled through the back streets of Ridgefield, the tension in the air was palpable. Every time the driver shifted in his seat, Liam's grip on his weapon tightened, ready for whatever might surface. As they approached the known area, graffiti lined the walls of abandoned buildings, their windows shattered, giving a glimpse into a once bustling neighborhood that had succumbed to neglect. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken secrets, and the echo of barking dogs crept through Graham's consciousness. The signs of something menacing afoot. Pulling into a narrow alley, they parked the car and exited. The driver hesitated, casting fearful glances around. I don't want to be here. This is not a good place," he muttered, stammering. "This is the only way we'll find out what's really happening," Maria shot back, keeping her eyes sharp and focused. "You're not getting away that easily." Taking deep breaths, they advanced, scanning the area for any sign of life, or perhaps more subtle signs of neglect. A few blocks down, Liam spotted a run-down warehouse with a flickering light illuminating grime-covered windows. There was a rusty sign hanging at an odd angle, "Kennel and Supply." "Is that it?" Liam asked, turning to the driver. "Is this where you found the puppy?" "It shouldn't be here," the man gulped, shifting uncomfortably. "I mean, it might be." Liam felt his stomach knot. "Get ready for backup, Maria. Something feels off." They carefully approached the entrance, and as they drew closer, the sounds of barking intensified, unsettled yaps echoing in the air. It was a cacophony of distress, and the urgency to break in swelled in Liam's chest. "Stay behind me," Liam instructed the driver, moving toward the door. He nudged it open slightly, and the atmosphere shifted. The stench of unclean habitat rushed out to greet them. Inside, rows of cages lined the dimly lit room, most of them empty but for the faint echo of trembling bodies within them. Liam's heart sank. It was worse than he'd imagined. He could see dogs of various breeds, their eyes sunken and desperate, some hiding at the back of their cages. "Call for animal control," Liam instructed Maria, who seemed equally disturbed by the scene. He moved closer, inspecting the cages, and felt rage boiling beneath the surface. Each whimper echoed a story of neglect and abuse. Just then, a raucous noise erupted from the back of the warehouse. A group of men stepped into view, rough-looking characters with hardened expressions. They eyed Liam and the driver with palpable hostility, and their hands hovered near their belts. "What the hell are you doing here?" one of the men barked, stepping closer, aggressive and uninviting. Before Liam could respond, the driver took a step back, panic etched across his face. I didn't mean to come here. I thought I could help." Liam stood firm, his gaze unwavering. "We're here to rescue these animals. Stand down, or we'll call for backup." "You think you can just walk in here?" another man sneered, stepping forward, fists clenched. The threat hung heavy in the air as Liam felt the tension snap. In that moment, everything hinged on the next few seconds. The men surged toward them, and Liam instinctively raised his weapon. "I'll ask you one more time. Step back." But before the confrontation could escalate, a sudden commotion erupted from another doorway, catching everyone off guard. A loud crash and the barks intensified as another figure, a woman likely from animal control, burst into the room, her presence commanding. "What's going on here?" she yelled, her voice authoritative. "Get back. This is our territory." One of the men roared, but the shock of her entrance gave Liam the opening he needed. "Settle down. This is a police matter," he declared, moving to secure the puppy cages, ensuring the women from animal control had cover for rescue. Confusion flickered in the men's eyes as backup sirens wailed outside, and they exchanged glances, realizing they were overwhelmed. "Back off," shouted Maria as officers flooded in, weapons drawn. The men's bravado quickly faded. They turned to escape, but it was too late. Officers apprehended them with swift, practiced efficiency. As the chaos settled, Liam turned to the animal control officer. "We need to get these dogs out. They're suffering." "You're right," she agreed, her eyes scanning the room. "They need immediate help." With determination, they began releasing the animals from their cages one by one. The sound of crate doors opening triggered frantic paws, and excited whines filled the atmosphere. And from somewhere deep within the warehouse, an unexpected sound emerged, a familiar whimper that tugged at Liam's heartstrings. He dashed toward the source, and, in the far corner of the warehouse, emerged a sickly-looking pup bearing a striking resemblance to the one he had rescued earlier. It was another pup in similar distress, its eyes pleading. "No, no. Please don't let it be too late," he murmured, cradling it carefully. Liam's team worked tirelessly, helping the animals to safety while ensuring the culprits faced justice for what they'd done. As they exited the warehouse, the sense of urgency transformed into a sense of purpose. They would not let another creature suffer under such cruelty. Outside, the fresh air seemed a welcome relief after the stench of neglect. But it was what lay ahead that truly galvanized Liam. They had uncovered a small piece of a much larger puzzle, a network responsible for unimaginable suffering, and he was determined to follow every lead to ensure those responsible faced the consequences. "Let's finish what we started," he said resolutely, his heart set on breaking the chain of abuses that plagued those innocent animals. In that moment, as Liam stood surrounded by chaos but fueled by hope, he knew he was not just fighting for puppies. He was fighting for every life that had been silenced. With conviction blazing in his chest, he prepared to dive into the investigation, ready to unveil the darkness lurking beneath the surface of his quiet town. The warehouse raid was a pivotal moment in Liam's quest for justice. The rescue operation, though harrowing, was a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the unrelenting determination of law enforcement. As the animals were escorted to safety and the suspects were taken into custody, Liam couldn't shake off the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of a much deeper issue. The evidence collected at the warehouse suggested a larger network of animal abuse and neglect, with several individuals and locations potentially involved. Liam was determined to follow the trail of clues and uncover the truth behind the sinister operation. He spent the next few hours poring over the case files, reviewing surveillance footage, and analyzing the statements of the suspects. The investigation began to reveal a complex web of connections, with multiple individuals involved in various aspects of the operation. There were the people responsible for breeding the animals, those who handled the transactions, and even a few individuals who seemed to be involved in the online aspect of the operation. Liam realized that the case was a multifaceted puzzle, with each piece holding crucial information. As he delved deeper into the investigation, Liam began to notice a few inconsistencies in the testimony of the suspects. They seemed to be hiding something, and he was determined to find out what. He arranged a meeting with Maria and the rest of the team to discuss the case and come up with a plan to further the investigation. Maria arrived at the meeting with a stack of files and a determined look on her face. "Liam, I think we need to take a closer look at one of the suspects," she said, holding up a file. "This guy, Victor, seems to be involved in some shady dealings. He's been linked to several animal abuse cases in the past." Liam's eyes narrowed as he scanned the file. "I knew it. There's something fishy about him." Maria nodded. "I agree. But what's even more interesting is that Victor seems to have a connection to a local animal shelter. I mean, it's a good shelter, but there's something about it that doesn't add up." Liam's interest was piqued. "Let's pay them a visit. See if we can get to the bottom of things." With the information gathered, Liam and Maria set out to the animal shelter, determined to uncover the truth. As they arrived, they were greeted by the shelter manager, a friendly woman named Sarah. She welcomed them warmly and offered to show them around the facility. Liam and Maria exchanged a skeptical glance. Something didn't feel right, but they decided to play along, hoping to gather more information. As they toured the facility, they noticed that some of the animals seemed to be in better condition than others. It was as if they were receiving special care. Liam's suspicions began to grow. "Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about the animals here?" he asked. Sarah launched into a passionate explanation about the shelter's mission and the care they provided for the animals. But as Liam listened, he couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss. "Sarah, can we ask you something?" Maria said, interrupting. Sarah nodded, slightly wary. "Do you have any animals here that are special?" Liam asked, his eyes locked on hers. Sarah hesitated, and for a moment, Liam thought he saw a flicker of something in her eyes. Guilt, possibly? But it was quickly replaced by a smile. "Yes, we do have a few special animals. They're part of our adoption program." Liam exchanged a knowing glance with Maria. They had found the connection they were looking for. They thanked Sarah for her time and promised to follow up soon, all the while planning their next move to expose the truth. As they left the shelter, Liam couldn't shake off the feeling that they were closing in on something big. The pieces were starting to fall into place, and with every new discovery, he became more determined to bring those responsible to justice. Back at the police station, Liam began to dig deeper into the shelter's adoption program, searching for any information that might lead him to the truth. As he scrolled through the records, he stumbled upon a peculiar transaction, a sale of a specific breed, one that had been linked to Victor's operation. Liam's heart skipped a beat. It couldn't be a coincidence. This was the break he had been waiting for. With a renewed sense of purpose, he turned to Maria and said, "We have a name and a lead. Let's bring this thing to an end." Maria's eyes lit up. "Let's do it." Together, they began to build a case against the shelter, piecing together evidence and testimony that would prove the shelter's involvement in the animal abuse and neglect operation. As they worked, Liam couldn't help but think about the countless animals who had suffered due to this sinister network. But he knew that justice was within reach, and with every new discovery, he felt a sense of hope that they would finally be able to bring an end to the abuse. As they continued to investigate, Liam realized that this case was not just about rescuing animals, but about restoring trust in the community and holding those accountable for their actions. With his heart set on justice, Liam continued to chase the leads, driven by a fierce determination to expose the truth and bring the perpetrators to justice, no matter what it took. In the silence of the night, as the world outside seemed to be at peace, Liam's thoughts were consumed by the faces of the abused animals, their eyes pleading silently for help. But he saw something else too, a glimmer of hope, and a determination that he would not let go until the truth was exposed. The sun was just beginning to rise over Ridgefield, casting rays of golden light through the blinds of the police station. Liam had hardly slept, his mind racing with all the information he had gathered over the past few days. Each piece of the puzzle had drawn him closer to the heart of an operation that had exploited innocence for profit. Today was the day he would confront the individuals behind the scheme, the network that had turned a blind eye to suffering. Liam and Maria convened with their team to finalize their plan. With the evidence they had collected against Victor and ties to the animal shelter, they decided to work collaboratively with animal control, local authorities, and even the district attorney to plan a coordinated raid at both the shelter and Victor's known locations. "This is bigger than we thought," Maria said, glancing at the board filled with photographs and notes. "If we don't do this right, we could lose our chance to shut them down for good." Liam nodded. "We need to be precise. We hit Victor's warehouse first, then move on to the shelter. If we can catch them off guard, we may be able to get confessions and evidence before they have a chance to dispose of anything." As the team split to prepare for the dual operation, excitement and tension crackled in the air. They were finally ready to bring justice to the animals, to bring down the operation that had haunted their community. "Remember, our priority is to ensure the safety of the animals first," Liam reminded everyone before they dispersed. "We've come too far to let anyone else get hurt." The first target was Victor's warehouse. They arrived under cover of darkness, ready to storm inside. Liam led the charge, breaching the door with urgency, while Maria and other officers followed closely behind. Inside the warehouse, the atmosphere felt heavy, thick with tension and anticipation. "Police, we have a search warrant," Liam bellowed, his voice echoing through the cold, empty space. The lights flickered on, illuminating the grim scene. Cages lined the walls, their occupants living shadows of their former selves, some cowering, while others barked in distress. Liam's resolve hardened as he surveyed their plight. Within moments, they encountered Victor and a few of his associates, who stood frozen, shock painted on their faces. "What's going on here?" Victor shouted. But before he could react further, the officers seized control, handcuffing Victor and the others quickly. "Turn around. You're under arrest for animal cruelty and neglect," Maria instructed, her voice firm and unwavering. As the officers secured the premises and began rescuing the animals, Liam noticed a back door slightly ajar. He sprinted towards it, convinced that Victor might have reinforcements waiting. Pushing through the door, he found a dark alley that led to the back of the warehouse. Suddenly, he spotted movement, a figure darting into a small van parked at the end of the alley. It was one of the men from the warehouse. "Stop right there," Liam called, racing forward. The man glanced back, panic flashing across his eyes. He leaped into the van and slammed the door shut, revving the engine in a desperate attempt to escape. Liam lunged forward, a heartbeat behind, but the van shot out, tires screeching in protest. Without thinking, Liam climbed into his cruiser, starting the engine. He was on the man's tail, adrenaline surging through him. The streets of Ridgefield blurred past as he pursued the fleeing vehicle, adrenaline pushing him forward. "What's your location?" Maria's voice crackled over the radio, and he quickly relayed the situation. "In pursuit of a suspect connected to the operation, heading northeast." The chase was daunting, weaving through the quiet street corners, and tension soared as Liam urged his car faster. He could see the van ahead, swerving dangerously. Just as they reached the outskirts of town, the van turned sharply into an old warehouse lot with no visible exits. "Liam," Maria shouted over the radio, "be careful. Backup is on the way." Liam parked his cruiser cautiously, approaching the van with caution, the engine still running. The man was attempting to kick open the door and flee, panic evident in his movements. "Get out," Liam shouted, aiming his weapon. "It's over." The man froze, glancing around desperately. "You don't know what you're messing with." I know exactly what I'm messing with, Liam retorted, advancing further. You're going to face justice for what you've done. Now get out of the vehicle slowly. Time pressed heavily as tension filled the air, and in one swift move, the man lunged forward, attempting to bolt. In a heartbeat, Liam was on him, wrestling him to the ground. They struggled, but training and determination outweighed the man's desperation. With reinforced backup arriving, other officers quickly apprehended the fleeing suspect, while Liam secured him in cuffs. You thought you could run? Liam asked, breathless but triumphant. You have no idea who you're dealing with. The man shouted defiantly, but Liam merely shook his head. Then tell me who I'm dealing with. It'll save you some time in the end, Liam urged, an intensity in his voice that demanded the truth. You think this is just Victor? The man scoffed. He's just the tip of the iceberg. You've stirred something powerful. Liam narrowed his eyes as the words sunk in. You just might have given me the lead I need, and I'm ready for more. With the suspect in custody, Liam returned to the police station, a fire in his heart and determination etched on his face. The raid at the animal shelter was still ahead, and he felt more resolute than ever. Once back in the station, the rescue team and other officers gathered for a briefing. Screens lit up with images of the horrors they'd uncovered at Victor's warehouse. The team formulated a strategy to approach the shelter next. As dawn broke and light flooded the room, they made their move. The atmosphere buzzed with energy as the officers arrived at the shelter, equipped with the warrants they needed. Everyone on my signal, Liam instructed, his voice steady. We're going to ensure these animals are safe and bring this operation to an end. Police! Open up, they shouted, breaking through the entrance with the force of justice on their side. Inside, chaos unfolded as they began clearing out cages and gathering animals for safe transport. Sarah, initially welcoming, now stood wide-eyed and panicked, realizing the true extent of the operation now unveiled. You can't do this. We're just trying to save these animals, she pleaded, though it rang hollow to Liam's ears. By sacrificing others, he retorted, determined to expose the entire operation. As Sarah was apprehended, Liam's team worked tirelessly, freeing the caged animals and ensuring their safety. As the last of the animals were prepared for transport, Liam felt a wave of relief wash over him. They had not only uncovered the truth, but had also rescued lives from the clutches of neglect and cruelty. Days turned into weeks as they followed the leads that the captured suspects had provided, leading to the unraveling of a much larger network of animal trafficking that spanned multiple states. As the case was brought to the courts, reporters buzzed around the community, eager to cover the story of the heroic rescue and the drastic measures being taken to ensure that these acts would never happen again. The town of Ridgefield came together to support the animals, raising funds to aid the shelter and provide proper homes for those newly liberated. Ridgefield was healing, and Liam knew that their town was stronger together. He stood surrounded by his team, what seemed like a victory in the air, knowing they had achieved something remarkable. Liam glanced down at the rescued pup he'd taken in, the one that had ignited this entire mission. It slept soundly in his arms, finally safe and surrounded by love. In the end, they hadn't just saved animals. They had restored hope where it had long been extinguished. And as he hugged the pup closer, Liam knew that he would continue to fight, ensuring every paw was protected, every voice heard, and that the darkness would never overshadow the light. Ridgefield was a community rising, and with every heartbeat, they would remember the faces of those they fought for, a pledge to honor the innocent and continue the fight against cruelty everywhere. Justice had come through, and its echo would resonate for years to come.